Hola friends, thank you so much for joining me for this Instagram live. We are going to take on performance anxiety. This is a subject that anyone who's ever had to get up in front of a person to do anything, speak, sing, play an instrument, act, we know what it means to have nerves, to battle stage fright, and try to face those fears surrounding our singing. And so when I think of someone who helps the artist navigate this from beginning to end, I immediately think of the lovely Keziah Grace of Anxious to Sing. So she is joining us from England. I'm gonna get her in here. And I believe she even has a little special guest joining us too. Give it a second. Let's see if it worked. All right, let's see if we can get her in here. Please, please, pretty please. Talking about anxiousness. Oh no, it's saying you declined, my love. Send request.
Everyone, are we good?
There we go.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened there.
That
Hello.
is okay. I was just saying, my last friend from England, Oren Boder, who's a mutual friend, we kind of had connection issues too. So I was just like,
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm
but
having it's always good fun, isn't it? Technology.
of
Whenever I
course.
come on these as well, it's always super quiet, so I don't know why, but
All
the
good. I'm
joys
glad that
of
you're
the
here
internet.
now. Thank you so much for joining us, beautiful. So we're going to jump right in. For those of our friends watching who may be meeting you for this first time, tell us who you are. Tell us about the birth of Anxious to Sing and all those good things.
Of course, yes. Hello, everybody. So I am Keziah Grace. As you can tell, I am from the UK, and I'm a vocal mindset and life coach for singers, specifically focusing on overcoming performance anxiety. And the reason that I started Anxious to Sing and my coaching through specific courses and everything like that, was because I struggled a lot with my own performance anxiety for a long time in a social context as well. And so I wanted to start Anxious to Sing originally as a blog, actually, in order to provide different information and tips and tricks and everything like that, really, that I had learned about overcoming such anxieties and as well about doing so whilst being a professional performer, because little side note, you can be a professional performer and still struggle with performance
Yes,
anxiety.
ma'am. That's why we're talking
So
about
yeah,
it.
so that is why I started Anxious to Sing, and then that moved into coaching and everything like that over the years.
I love it. I love it. And it's just so relevant. I think probably, especially within the last year and a half, when our connections were forced to primarily be digital, I started seeing this conversation happen more and more in our field as coaches and performers and singers, and sort of strip the shame surrounding those feelings, right? When you and I first spoke, we were talking just about our upbringing and our training, and some of that fake it till you make it mindset was so ingrained in us. And
Yeah.
I know for me personally, this last year has forced me to deal with whatever I shoved down for the sake of, do the thing.
Yeah.
Just do the thing. But at the heart, and that's at the heart of my teaching philosophy, just as a voice and performance coach as well, is yeah, we'll do singing lessons, yeah, I'll teach you the thing. But when I see my singers really tackle the mental battles surrounding their voice, and then when they do that, hear the freedom then that comes out, that for me is what energizes me. Would you say that's the same when working with your clients?
definitely, definitely. What I think a lot of singers forget, like I forgot once upon a time as well, was that singing is in fact a form of expression.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from that desire to express a message, to express yourself, to express a song, some music that connects with other people
Mm-hmm.
in that specific way. And if we forget that it actually is a form of expression, we can get really overwhelmed with thinking about, it's about being successful in my career. Oh, it's about being able to hit that belting F. Oh, it's about being able to hit that top soprano note. It's about that. And we shift the focus from being around why we started singing in the first place, which is because we wanted to express our voice
Mm-hmm.
in such a way, then it can really interfere with our mindset and with how freely we put out such expression. We allow ourselves to express our voices. And as well, when we focus on things like, oh, it has to be about that career, it has to be about that certain level of success, etc., etc., that can equally be detrimental to our minds, because with that we start to bring that pressure, which becomes more and more about what can I do next rather than what have I already achieved. And there's just
Mm-hmm.
so many tangents I could go off on right now, but I won't. Queen of
Please
tangents.
do. We probably do. Maybe I'll go on those tangents with you, because often, and most voice teachers will even tell you now, some lessons almost feel like therapy, where not much singing is done, because we've created, thankfully, hopefully, a brave space for singers to be vulnerable and really get to the heart of, why do I always make this assumption of myself? Why do I always approach either this piece of music, this song, this particular style of singing with such,
Yeah.
either fear or this pressure to get it right the first time you even sing a note? I mean, even in warm-ups, right? Warm-ups have to be beautiful and perfect. And I'm like, no, no, no. They're supposed to
Yeah.
be messy. I mean, have you ever watched an athlete warm up? They look ridiculous, right?
Exactly.
Dynamic stretching and wiggling and touching their
Yeah.
toes, and really, gosh, it's such a process. So where do you even start? What's the starting point for you when you're coaching someone through they say, hi, Kezia, I've come to you for this. What's the first thing you do or say?
Yeah, the first thing I always do is I guide them to find their why. And
Mm-hmm.
it can sound really simple to be like, oh, so why do you sing? For the majority of people, the answer is going to be because I love it. And yeah, that's good. But why do you love it? Like, what is the nitty-gritty behind your desire to actually sing? Because if we lose sight of that as well, then when we move forward into such careers, again, the focus becomes on the outcome of that rather than your why being because it's how I express my soul, for example. So in order to start on the journey of being able to express your voice more freely, overcome performance anxiety as well, is to really find the root cause of why you want to do such things. Why do you want to express your voice freely? Why do you want to overcome performance anxiety? Why does that feel like you really need to do it? Because why do you sing? What is it that's leading you to this path, to these answers, to want these answers, I should say. So we always start with finding that why, which is a little bit harder than it sounds. It can sound really easy to be like, oh, it's just because I love it. Right, next, yeah. But there's so much more to it than that. And when I guide my clients as well, I know that I see that like light bulb moment in terms of like, oh, that's why. Now it all makes sense without all the
Mm-hmm.
fluff, without everything else in terms of worldly outcomes. What is your soul's reason to sing? Yeah.
How did you, when you talked about your own anxiety journey, how did you
Mm.
find your why? What was the catalyst for you to get to pinpoint it?
That's such a good question. So how I started my journey to overcome such anxieties was I had a life coach. So
Mm-hmm.
I gained a life coach, which is something I am now trained and qualified in. Um, And they led me to find it, really. So with that life coaching experience, my gorgeous coach, Jessica Paul, cheeky shout out, wonderful human being, she led me through different exercises in order to figure out why I wanted certain goals. So I had a goal in terms of want to overcome performance anxiety. I want to be Christine Daae on the West End. I want to do this. I want to do that. And she was like, but
Yeah.
why do you want that? Why do you think that your happiness lies in such achievements, or that your soul is guided to fulfill such achievements? And we don't really ask ourselves these questions, do
Yeah.
we? Like, it's not very often that you sit and think, yeah, but why do I actually want that? So yeah, so that gorgeous coach of mine was who led me to figure out all these things for myself at the very beginning of my journey. Yeah.
I love that. Yay, thank you for her. We're so thankful.
Yes.
Because without her, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? So
It's so true. Yeah, so
that's
true.
amazing. And this is something I think that's again helped to really dissect the why is
Mm.
also thinking of all the things in your life that are not related to singing that do bring you joy, you know,
Yeah.
like do you find that that one feeds the other? Even and I think I made a post a couple of months ago about just like resting for the weekend, trying to find a creative outlet that wasn't musical. And some
Yeah.
people are like, I don't know how to do that. I'm just consumed with singing or consumed with what I do. And I think the danger and something I've had to realize this past year is that I am not what I do. You know, what I
Mm.
do is a byproduct of who I am. So
Yeah.
would you say that maybe encouragement for someone who's so wrapped up in trying to figure out the why is think of all the other things that bring you happiness as well?
Yeah, definitely. Another thing as well, like just like you mentioned, being able to take time away from it. So if your focus has become centered around and is causing you added anxiety in terms of trying
Mm-hmm.
to find that why, take a step back. The easiest way to do that, like you said, is by doing other things that bring you joy. And then as you're doing that, as you're exploring different things, so we we find our own what's the word, inspiration, in terms of creative inspiration,
Exactly.
through
Mm-hmm.
doing other things as well. It's not just through singing that we have creative inspiration. We can see it in the world, see it in nature, see it in traveling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by being able to take a step back from whatever it is you are so focused on, it allows you to see it from a different perspective. And it's also mostly as well when you are focused on a different task that you realize the solution to another task, or you think of a different way of
Exactly.
fulfilling another
Yeah.
task. And
Uh-huh.
it's really important to remember that too. We don't have to keep hammering it out. It's like with learning a song as well. The more you feel like I just have to keep going, just have to keep going, that's building up tension. And when you take the
Mm-hmm.
focus off of it for a second, it gives you the ability to come back to it with a completely refreshed mind and new perspective. Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. What are some of the things that fill your cup that are not musical related or music related or singing related?
That's such a good question. Yeah. Traveling, which I know has been a bit hard, but definitely traveling. I love exploring new places. I like going for walks in nature as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just, the calm of it, once you allow yourself to go there to that place of calm, is just it's rejuvenating. So I love traveling. I love spending time with my family and the
Mm-hmm.
new little puppy that we have.
Please, can we get a glimpse of the puppy? We're here for the puppy.
She's just been taken out, actually. So she's just been taken away. I know she was here. She's been ever so good. She doesn't even bark at anything. She's so
Oh,
gorgeous. There's a
well,
little
check.
glimpse on my story.
I was gonna say, check out Keziah's IG stories. You'll get a little glimpse of Miss Olive as well. That's wonderful. I've really been like I was telling just in my own journey. I struggle with anxiety myself, and really finding those outlets has been life changing for sure. I too connect with nature,
Mm,
really guarding those. off times or downtime, setting some good boundaries, even for my work, not responding to certain emails at certain times after a certain time, or,
Yeah.
really, yeah, just being very, making sure those moments remain sacred, because when I allow things to invade them, I immediately see the ripple effect in the rest of my day. Like, why was I wound up so tightly? Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, over the course of the pandemic, because this whole, venture of yours and business and journey of yours was birthed out of this time,
Mm.
do you um, do you see hope, like the ship sort of turning, where there's a more openness and willingness to work through these things? Do you find that people are more are opening their heart more to the process? Do you see an increase in performers who are reaching out for help? What's been your journey through these months, where all of us in the world have gone through ebbs and flows of the pandemic,
Yeah.
and all the stresses for performers that come with it? What's it been like for you?
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting that throughout the pandemic and everything, it has brought to light the importance of mental health, has
Mm-hmm.
brought to light the importance of taking time out to be able to process any of those things that we were dealing with before we were given time to not do anything, really.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can definitely see a bigger level and a bigger amount of people who are willing to talk about it more. I remember, it's interesting you ask, because when I first started Anxious to Sing and I started sharing things about my own journey, things about how I overcame certain things, and how I
Mm-hmm.
continue to manage anxiety on a daily basis whenever it shows up, whenever I feel those overwhelming emotions, because it's a continued journey.
Yes.
It's not something we just eradicate forever.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is a natural human reaction to to situations we put ourselves in and find ourselves in. But I digress. And when I first started sharing those things, I received quite a lot of messages in terms of being like, oh, it's really good you share about this. It's so good to see how open you are about it. And in my head, I hadn't considered myself as attempting to be open about it. I just got into a place where I felt like other people needed to hear it, because it's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I would have needed to hear, like even a couple of years ago, prior to
Exactly.
starting
Mm-hmm.
anything. It's what I needed to hear. And the
Mm-hmm.
more people share about it, I mean, you don't have to share the ins and outs of it all, but even in general, just saying to someone, you are not alone. You're not the only person who feels that way backstage, on stage, in life, social situations. You are not alone. Being able to just share that in itself, and how open people have become about sharing that, I
Mm-hmm.
think is a beautiful thing. It really, really is, because I know that it has helped other people feel free enough to come to coaches like myself to talk about it, to provide that safe space for them to do so as well. But yeah, I don't know if I went off on another tangent,
No,
but
I love it. I love it. I think we can all, people who are on here, either as a performer or as a teacher, can completely attest to working out their own things, working out things with their clients or singers, or and like you said, we are not alone. And we don't say that to as toxic positivity, right? Just
no.
like get over it because you're not the only one. I
Mm-mm.
hope it actually brings you comfort to know that you're
Yes.
not the only one. So let's talk about a tool that people are using more, and you definitely use a lot in your practice: the art of the affirmation, right?
The aff-
Yeah,
I love
the
that. The
art of the
art of the
affirmation.
affirmation. I love that. That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, talk us through how you explain this to your clients and the application.
Okay, affirmations. First and foremost, words are so jolly powerful. So
I love
anything,
it.
like people forget how powerful words are.
Yeah.
But how many times do we hear things like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or belting is just shout singing? Get rid of that from your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Get rid of that. It's not helpful terminology. And I know that a lot of the time it's said in a passive manner, but
Hmm.
through hearing these things repeated at you and the show must go on all the time,
Yeah.
it's a good phrase. But if we hear that all the time, it starts to build that pressure because words are powerful. So
Hmm.
with affirmations, I always firstly tell people to go with words that you just love. And I'm sure if every single one of us sat down and thought for a second, okay, what words do I like? That's such a weird thing. But some words start to come to mind. For example, for my own, that was shine, that was radiant, that was
Mm.
limitless, unstoppable. These are all words that I've always just been there, that I've always just thought, oh, that's a good word. Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
descriptive word.
Yeah.
I'd love to be that. I'd love to seem like that. And that's a really good place to start in terms of finding those words that connect with your soul and yourself. Because that is a really important thing about affirmations, is that you have to believe in it. It's all well and good
Mm-hmm.
saying, my voice is incredible. But if you don't firmly believe it, we have to find a way to phrase it in a way that does work for you on your journey. And affirmations change as they go along. They can start out as my voice is good. I am improving every day. I know that every time I show up to sing, I am improving. No matter whether it turns out how you want it or not, you're still turning up and you know you're improving. That's a place to start. And they will change and progress as you go along with them. But affirmations, I love sharing them. I love sharing my own, but I will always urge people and clients as well to find their own, because you know what words connect with you and where you are
Mm.
at with your journey at that moment in time. So start with those words that you love. What words do you want to be? You want to be radiant, empowered, confident, any words like that. Start with those and then find the phrases that work for your journey, for where you're at right now. In terms of to be able to empower that moment moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, I really appreciate this because I will see affirmations again, maybe this creates this type of feeling in me because that's theirs, right? It's not necessarily mine.
Yeah.
And I personally have been in my anxiety journey have been working through healing from toxic positivity. So it for me it's something I'm still working on. I don't want to say something that sounds like I'm just shoving away the feeling and not acknowledging it, because that's also part of the process too, right? Is acknowledging that what you're feeling is very real. We're not waving a magic wand and casting a spell and hoping it just goes away. It's the acknowledgement. So I love your language around I am improving, which means there's a process in place, even when it feels like I haven't arrived or met the goal, you know? So I really appreciate that. You kind of walking us through that, so that it is personal. I've definitely used tons of affirmations written by other people that resonate with my journey, and I think that's wonderful. Use those resources. But I also love the encouragement you give to make it your own and start from scratch with you, so that
Yes.
like you said, the more personal, then you believe it, right? You believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I always think as well, like if you don't connect with the words that are being said, then it's hard to maintain them. It's hard to, for example, if it's to build a new habit of I regularly do my SOBT practice, an affirmation like that, for example, then it can be harder to it's harder to connect with the words if they're not your words, therefore
Mm-hmm.
making it harder to instill that confidence, to instill that habit, to instill that practice within your body as well. So it very much is a
Ooh.
personal thing. If you connect with another person's affirmation, that's a good thing. Like, words are powerful, be
Mm-hmm.
inspired, but also remember, you can make it your own. You can take someone else's words and be like, this is how I'm going to write it, because it's about your journey.
Exactly.
It's not about their journey. It's them guiding you, but it's about your journey. And that's a really important part as well. And what you said as well about it's not about toxic positivity, it's not at all. Again, those affirmations can be a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I always love to say, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to anything around that, it's always about managing. It's never about suppressing, because in
Mm.
suppressing them, you just start to feel like those emotions are just bubbling under your skin all
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Mm-hmm.
And those stories that you tell yourself, those memories that keep coming up, they're just bubbling under there all the time. The more and more we suppress them. And it's about managing it so we can let it out in a healthy manner in order to process it and move forward from it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. And you actually meant, you said a, like a trigger word, but in a good way, about
Oh.
what you're feeling in your body, right?
Mm.
I think part of the performance anxiety conversation that I would love to delve in more, and I'm sure that you do this as well, and I would love to hear your heart on this, is we're talking a lot about the mental capacity, right? In the brain, what's
Yeah.
going on in the brain. But ooh, what we feel in our body is such a huge component of how we're processing what's right here.
Yeah.
So, this I would. Do you have, for instance, a breathing or relaxation tool that you would like to demo for us, real quick?
Yeah, for
Yay!
sure. I think my favorite go-to breathing pattern would be inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6, and hold for 2. So I can do it for you just now if you
Yes,
want.
I'm gonna do it with you.
Okay, so I'll always count it for people because it just feels more calming. So if you exhale everything first and inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 1, 2, exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold for 1, 2, and then you would repeat and repeat. And I always
Yes,
suggest doing this about 5 to 6 times because at first, as you may have experienced, that hold can feel a little bit like a little
forever.
bit, and you can feel a little bit like, because you're trying to regain control over any erratic breathing, anything that's going on in the body, it can feel like that little bit of resistance at first. But then
Mhm.
as you go along with it, it's also a really good breathing pattern for if you're struggling to get to sleep. I'm just going to put that out there too. It's
Mhm.
such a good one. Um, but yeah, so that's why I always say do it about 5 to 6 times and you can start to feel that ease and that inner calm coming. Stick with it. It's not a case of you can do it once and suddenly your breathing is under control. It is a case of do it 5 to 6 times and start to feel that inner calm and naturally coming through that hold as well.
I love it. I do feel relaxed. Thank you, Kezia. So, for people who do want to work with you, how do they find you? Take all the minutes you need to just advertise all the wonderful things that you're up to.
Oh, bless you. That's so kind. Yes. So over on Anxious to Sing on Instagram, go ahead and give us a follow. Send us a little wave. Send us a hello. I love receiving messages and chatting to you all. And then you can find out a lot more about what I do specifically through Anxious to Sing, my coaching, which is done through an academy, Anxious to Sing Academy, which is a 6-month group coaching program. It's just an empowered group of people, an empowered
Mhm.
container of female singers. So you can find out more about all of that over on anxioustosing.com. We do have a couple of free resources as well. So over there, I have my Power Up Your Voice guide, which happens when you subscribe to our mailing list, and you'll get that free guide, and that will also guide you through finding your why and creating affirmations. So perfect that we talked about that today. And there's a free Let Go of Your Inner Critic mini course on there as well. And I think that's it. Pop me a message if anyone ever has any questions. As I said, I like receiving messages.
Yes, I've actually referred some of my students to go download all those free goodies.
Oh,
And
amazing.
if you, I will highly, personally recommend within that, Kezia does a lovely meditation practice. And you've
Yeah.
already heard how magical her voice is anyway. So imagine hearing that to calm and relax and encourage. So, Kezia, Kezia, thank you so much for the work that you're doing to encourage us all in this performance world, making it less scary and more empowered. So thank you so much, my dear, for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me on. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. And you
Yes.
look gorgeous, by the way. Just saying.
Thank you. I have naturally wavy hair, so when I do blow dry it, it's like, whoo.
Oh.
So thank
I
you,
love that.
darling.
Mine's just, yeah.
No,
You look gorgeous.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for joining us, friend.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Bye.